There we go. So thanks for jumping on today's session. And as you know, if you've just jumped on, today's session is all around workplace skin cancer checks. And as the heading there suggests, it's really around saving employees' lives. So it's something that's very close to our heart at Pinnacle Health Group, and we're very passionate about. And today's going to be a super informal session. There's lots of times for Q&A. It's a pretty intimate little group that we have here. So we're certainly open to be interrupted or stopped at any point if you want to clarify anything. There's some parts of the session where you can jump in and interact as well. So feel free to get involved in that as we go along. So first of all, we're going to cover off on what a skin cancer check actually is and sort of where it fits into not just workplace health, but into our own health and wellbeing, generally speaking. We'll talk about why they're popular and why they're really important in a workplace setting, and where they fit in a workplace wellbeing program, because there's obviously lots of different things that people need to look at with workplace wellbeing. We'll talk about how to deliver them, so all the ins and outs of actually how to deliver skin cancer checks, and we will look at sort of how to structure it in or where it fits in a structured wellbeing program as well. And as I touched on, there's lots of chances for Q&A and stopping me at any point in time. So let's make the most of that. So first of all, just so you have a little bit of understanding of who we are and where we come from, my name's Josh Lambert, obviously, as you can see there. I'm from Pinnacle Health Group. So we have been around for 12 years now as a corporate health provider. So we deliver workplace services for over 200 workplaces across Australia and New Zealand. We're sort of well known or best known for our wellbeing programs, and they really focus on health checks, skin cancer checks, workshops and education, and our structured wellbeing programs as well. So that's kind of what we're best known for. And really, if you boil down everything that we do at Pinnacle Health Group, and we're super passionate about this, it's all around inspiring healthy change. And often the way we describe this, it's not just about workplaces inspiring healthy change for their people or the employees that they're directly responsible for. It's actually about really the knock-on effect. And, given that we spend a third of our lives working, we can really shape behaviours, not just for the employees that work for us, but the teams, the families and the communities that they all interact with. So that we take our job very seriously doing that, and that's why we're here talking about this today. Just to break down, and again, this isn't so much a sales pitch of Pinnacle Health Group, it's just to give you an understanding of what it is that we do day in, day out, so we feel qualified to talk about skin cancer checks. But there's really three things that we do or that we're approached for, and one of those is wellbeing strategy. So that would be things like today's masterclass, where you might be a health and wellbeing leader or an HR leader, or anyone at your organisation that has been lumped with the role of implementing a wellbeing program, and you'd like to learn information as to how to best deliver your wellbeing program or strategy. So we get approached a lot for that, and we really enjoy doing that. The core of what we do are the wellbeing programs, however, and that, as I touched on before, it's really what we're best known for, and they include some of those services like health checks, skin cancer checks, workshops, etc. And finally, wellness centres. So that's probably a little bit more out of the box, and you may not be as familiar with that, but wellness centres, I'm actually dialing in from a wellness centre today at ANZ Bank's headquarters. But for some of our, as I said before, we work with 200 workplaces. For some of those workplaces, they're lucky enough to have space and enough employees to justify having their own on-site wellness centre. And we are lucky enough to manage those for some of the big banks in Australia, accounting firms, and so on. So that's another part of what we do. And finally, before I get into today's content around skin cancer checks and health checks, just to share, I touched on before, this goes way further than the 200 workplaces that we work with. This is all about that community involvement and inspiring healthy change for the bigger picture. And because of that, we've actually developed a community called the Well Workplaces Community. And we have lots and lots of workplace leaders or employees themselves, or they might be health and wellbeing leaders, all involved in this big community, learning from each other. We have a podcast that there's weekly episodes with different wellbeing leaders and stakeholders from the best organisations across Australia and New Zealand. And the whole idea is just it's a sharing space to talk about what's new in workplace wellness, how workplace wellness is being delivered, and how to do it really well, I suppose. So it's something that we're extremely passionate about, and yeah, if you do get a chance, you can jump on the Well Workplaces podcast, all the places that you find podcasts, and it's well worth a listen if you're interested. Okay. So first of all, we're going to start today's session, and we're going to go, well, the first question we're going to ask, have you ever had a skin cancer check conducted before? So it's a very, very quick yes or no question. We're using a program here called Mentimeter. So what you need to do is you just need to open up another tab on your laptop or on your phone if you've got it. Just go to menti.com and you'll see the code up the top there, 8679. 2259 it is, so 8679 2259. And if you just follow the prompts, you can answer this question, and we'll see a bit of a live as we go along report as to whether or not you've had a skin cancer check conducted or not. 2 so far. That's pretty good. 2 so far out of our attendees here. I reckon that's probably just about us, really, isn't it? So, so good to see. So hopefully a lot of you have had a skin cancer check done before. Many of you may not have if you're either on this live or you're listening to the recording of this. They're super important. We're going to get to the reasons that skin cancer checks are super important, but it's just a nice little snapshot to see if it's something that you've had done. Now, a bit of a question here. This is just to test not just whether you've had a skin cancer check done or not, but to test your knowledge of skin cancer checks and the frequency of them. So this particular question is asking, how often should you get a skin cancer check done? Or how often should you get a skin cancer check? Is it every 3 months, every 6 months, every year, every 2 years, or it depends? Oh, we're a bit split here. We're a bit split, controversial. Now, this is a little bit of a trick question. So I've probably thrown you, sent you up the garden path a little bit here. It is a trick question because the correct answer is it depends. So well done, whoever got that one right. It depends because it depends on a few factors. It depends on the result of your skin cancer check if you've had one done before. It also depends on the result of your skin cancer risk assessment, which we're going to talk about in a moment. But basically, how high you score on the risk assessment or how high you are risk-wise means you should get a skin cancer check done more frequently. So more like every 3 to 6 months. Whereas if you've had a risk assessment done or you've had a skin cancer check done before and there weren't too many lesions of note or anything to look at there, it's more like every year or every 2 years, depending on that risk. So a bit of a trick question. I'm being a bit sneaky already, but thank you for getting involved in that one there already, guys. All right, so before we talk about skin cancer checks and how they are integrated into workplaces and what they actually do for workplaces, let's just have a look at skin cancer in essence and how it sort of sits in the broader health and wellbeing spectrum in Australia and New Zealand. To be frank, they're not great statistics at all. And these are, when you look down the list here and you're ranked first, it might sound attractive. These aren't attractive statistics if you're in Australia at the moment, but just to go through these stats, these are all taken from the Cancer Council of Australia, by the way. But the first one is one that you may have heard of quite commonly, but 2 out of 3 Australians will be diagnosed with skin cancer by the age of 70. So we have a pretty intense sun in Australia. We spend a lot of time outdoors, and also we're lucky enough to be an island where we're spending time at beaches and in the water and whatnot. So for that reason, there is a high prevalence of skin cancer, unfortunately, diagnosed in Australia. So that's the first statistic to look at there. The second one is that we're ranked first in the world. Again, it's not a great statistic to be ranked first in, but we're basically ranked first for the incidence of melanoma. And they're saying it's age standardized melanoma incidence. So basically across the globe, there's a higher incidence of melanoma in Australia across those ages that we're speaking there. So yeah, pretty scary statistic. The other one, in terms of where skin cancer ranks, this is internally within Australia now, is that skin cancer is the most prevalent cancer in Australia. So more people in Australia have skin cancer than any other type of cancer in Australia. And finally, just to give you a bit of a number here. So in 2022, the expected number based on over the last few years, and unfortunately, the number diagnosed is growing, but those diagnosed with melanoma, so skin cancer, is up to nearly 17,000 per year. So it's pretty intense statistics there. It doesn't paint a great picture, and hence the need for awareness and detection of skin cancer is huge. And really, we're going to talk to why it's really important as workplaces or employers to take responsibility of this. But as a snapshot, taking the workplace out of this, if you're looking at, it's the most prevalent cancer in Australia, and 2 out of 3 of us will be diagnosed with it. It's something that, regardless of workplace skin cancer checks, that we all need to be really familiar with and make sure that we are looking after ourselves in that sense. So any questions so far, guys?
Nope.
All good. All good. Alrighty, so what is a skin cancer check? So that paints a bit of a picture, not a great picture, by the way, but why we need to consider skin cancer checks, not just in the workplace, but generally for ourselves. Now, first of all, what is a skin cancer check? Well, let's go through that. So basically, a skin cancer check is, as you can probably imagine, it's a check or an assessment for risk factors and basically the likelihood of having a skin cancer. Now, I should clarify here as well that a skin cancer check or a workplace skin cancer check that we conduct is not removal of skin cancers. It's not led by GPs or led by dermatologists. It's basically the first line of defense, or the first part of awareness of risks towards skin cancer. So I'll explain this a little bit better as I go along here, but basically it's a head-to-toe assessment. So a dermatoscopist or a skin cancer practitioner usually would come out on site to your workplace. They would be in a room like I'm in at the moment here. So it'd be a private room, all fully enclosed. The patient or the employee would go through a head-to-toe assessment. So they would derobe down to their underwear. Often we provide gowns. And the dermatoscopist, or the person holding the dermatoscope, which you can kind of see in the background here, this wand in the background, basically they go through head to toe and they'll look at every lesion, every mole, every sunspot that is suspicious and go through that head to toe. So you can imagine for some people with not too many lesions or moles in their body, it can be quite a quick process. For other people that have lots of sunspots and moles, it can take a little bit longer. But generally speaking, the head-to-toe skin cancer check takes within 15 minutes. It's often done sort of in around 10 minutes. And as I said, it's looking head-to-toe at all of those spots through the body. Now, the dermatoscope basically magnifies these spots, and to a dermatoscopist, I always struggle to say that word, but to a dermatoscopist, they obviously are highly trained in what to look for, the different types of cancers and the different, the high risk cancers and the ones that are spots to watch. And basically through that assessment process, they'll detect which spots are something to look at, or which spots need immediate action or immediate referral. And again, this dermatoscope magnifies that and just brings it all closer to the dermatoscopist so they can make a qualified opinion of what's going on with the skin. Now, the recommended action, so basically the process there is that the skin cancer check will be conducted. There'll be lesions marked down or spots to watch marked down by the dermatoscopist on a little booklet for the patient or for the employee. And basically there'll be recommended actions. And we'll talk through those recommended actions in a moment, but that's just the head-to-toe process there. As I touched on before, what the skin cancer check in a workplace setting is not, is removing skin cancers, or is a definitive, we must immediately remove this now because this is a skin cancer. What it is detection and then subsequent referral to have a GP or a dermatologist then take the next step there. So that basically, in a nutshell, is what a skin cancer check is. Some of you may have experienced it before in a workplace setting. Some of you may have had this done at a GP independently through yourself, but we're going to talk to a few different statistics in a moment as to why delivering them in a workplace setting is super important, and just the convenience factors around that. So anyway, that's the skin cancer check and that's what it involves. The next question you really ask yourself is that why would we deliver workplace skin cancer checks? So why not just say to your staff, well, it's your skin, it's your body, go and get a skin cancer check if you like with your GP, or go and see a dermatologist, but that's not our responsibility. Don't worry about it. So I probably don't need to remind you because it was only a couple of slides ago, but skin cancer is the most common cancer in Australia. 2 out of 3 of us, unfortunately, will be diagnosed with skin cancer by the age of 70. So if you pair those two things together, along with the fact that we spend a third of our lives working, there's a huge responsibility on us as employers to look after the holistic health and well-being of our staff. So yes, mental health is a huge care factor and a huge factor in looking after the well-being of employees, but so is physical health. And if you look at health and safety and you look at the responsibilities of workplaces, it's not just enough to have OH&S policies in place or to have risk management or injury management processes in place. Initiatives such as an employee assistance program, so looking after the mental well-being or having access to a psychologist for employees is super important. But things like skin cancer checks come into play as well, because if all of those statistics marry up and these guys spending their lives actively working, there is a huge responsibility. So, but really to cut to the chase, why workplace skin cancer checks? Why deliver these in a workplace setting? Well, there's really, there's two stakeholders here that we're talking to. There's the employees themselves and there's the employers, or perhaps if you're on the call here today, it's more likely that you're probably the employer or the leader that has been charged with the responsibility to consider skin cancer checks at your organisation. So we're going to talk to both of these stakeholders, but first of all, the employees, why deliver them in a workplace setting? Well, it gives the employees access to skin cancer checks in the first instance. I'm going to share a statistic now, and it's a pretty intense statistic as well, but we've been doing skin cancer checks for many years now. When we first started delivering skin cancer checks, one of the most important statistics from all the skin cancer campaigns that we've delivered is that 71 or up to 71% of those employees that would have skin cancer checks done through the workplace via Pinnacle Health Group, up to 71% of those employees had never had a skin cancer check done before. So I'll say that again. So everyone that had had a skin cancer check done with Pinnacle Health Group when we first started, 71% of those employees had never had a skin cancer check done before. So really what we're saying there is that without the workplace really providing these skin cancer checks or delivering it as an initiative, these employees aren't getting skin cancer checks done. It's all good for us to say, well, surely they can go and see a GP or they can go and get this done externally. People just weren't getting that done. Okay, so that's the first point to talk to there. That's a huge reason why these things should be done, because if your employees aren't getting it done through your workplace, there's a fair chance they're not getting it done at all. Therefore, there's a fair chance that they're going to be higher risk for skin cancer in their life. So that's cutting to the chase, but fairly blunt there. The second stakeholder we're talking to here are probably you guys, so the employers or the leaders that are in charge with delivering this. Now, see, I've lost a word here in the formatting of this presentation, basically, but effectively saving employees' lives and engaging them in well-being in the first place is the point that we're trying to make here. So for employers and for leaders, really skin cancer checks, because of the prevalence, they're highly engaged initiatives, and therefore employees jumping on board skin cancer checks, not only is it great because it's life-saving, but it means that they're exposed to the employee wellbeing program that you've been charged with and all the other different aspects of that. So what I mean by that is that if skin cancer checks, as they are, they're a really high engagement, there's more chance of that employee initially going along to the skin cancer check part of the program, but then going, actually, I didn't realize we had an EAP provider, or that's great, we've got health checks coming up too. Maybe I'll get my general health check or my heart health check done as well. So that's another huge reason of why deliver skin cancer checks. Let's dig into that in a few more specifics here, just so you can really follow on with where I'm coming from. So for the employees, or from the employee side of things, I'll be an employee now or a patient of one of our skin cancer campaigns. I receive an email from the HR team or the health and wellbeing team saying, coming up, we've got skin cancer checks that we're delivering as part of your wellbeing program. And most likely, given the statistics I shared before, there's a fair chance I either have never had a skin cancer check done, or I haven't had one done for a year, 2 years, 3 years, etc. So I get an email done and I go, wow, that's great. I haven't had that done. Yeah, that's a good reminder for me. I'm going to book in here for my skin cancer check. The second thing is that obviously from the employee's point of view, if the workplace are organising this and funding this, it's obviously not an out-of-pocket cost for them. It's not something they have to then go and book in separately through their GP or go to a dermatologist that you can be paying sort of $300 or $400 for these skin cancer checks as well. So that's obviously a huge selling point for the employer themselves, is that accessibility, not just at a convenience factor, but a cost factor or lack of cost factor as well. The second sort of benefit as well is it's that first line of defense. So thankfully, a lot of the skin cancer checks that we conduct are, they're passing the tick of approval, or they're getting the tick of approval from a qualified dermatoscopist saying, look, things are looking all right at the moment. There's a couple of spots to watch, but at the moment you don't need any immediate action. So that's effectively you don't have skin cancers that need to be removed, or you don't have skin cancers. So that's huge peace of mind. So that preventative screening side of things is a huge relief. And thankfully, large percentage of these skin cancer checks, well, we hope that continues, are not actually identifying these life-threatening skin cancers every single check. Those that are, of course, well, that's even more, because basically straight away these employees are going to do something about it. They're going to go straight away and get this skin cancer removed, and there's an immediate benefit there. But thankfully, it's that first line of defense. And what it also triggers for the employees, it creates behavioural change. So if you guys can see the image here of this skin assessment that we spoke about earlier, and what it identifies is not just whether or not there are any suspicious lesions on your skin that need action, but also basically identifies, well, how at risk are you based on genetics, based on skin type, based on any other cancer in the family. Sorry, I just got a question here. Cool. All right. Sorry if this is not coming through that well. I'll push on, hopefully on the recording it doesn't sound too bad, but thanks guys for that feedback. Basically though, the skin cancer risk assessment is really a point to identify, how at risk are you as an employer, as a patient, and what actions are required in that sense. But as I said before, what we focus on at Pinnacle Health Group is inspiring healthy change. This skin cancer check, or that email that goes out to the employee to book in their skin cancer check, is often that first step to doing something about it, not just this year or for this campaign, but for follow-up campaigns. And they may even, the idea is that they book in annually or 6 monthly or every 2 years, their regular skin cancer check, and it just becomes part of their health and wellbeing process. Okay. All right, from the employer's point of view. So this is now talking to the leaders or the stakeholders that are charged with organising skin cancer checks or the wellbeing program. I touched on it before, but it's a high engagement initiative. So, because it is something that we just don't often in our lives get time to do, the engagement's high. Like I talk about it later on here, but health checks and skin cancer checks, the average engagement's around 38%. Something like an EAP program, an employee assistance program, is 4%. So it's a high engagement initiative, which means that not only is it great because it can detect cancer and can save lives, but it's also a really great way to get people, that may have not got involved with wellbeing initiatives in the past, involved in the wellbeing program, generally speaking. So that's another really big benefit of it. Any health checks, skin cancer checks, of course, is one of those. It helps direct the focus on wellbeing initiatives. So what I mean by that is that it's very hard to deliver a wellbeing program that's tailored to your organisation unless you're measuring something. And by measuring something, we look at health checks, so heart health checks, measure lifestyle disease factors, blood glucose, cholesterol, blood pressure, nutritional intake, etc. Skin cancer checks measures risk towards skin cancer and cancerous lesions across your population. So it's a really huge and powerful statistic as an employer to see, well, how, literally how many of our employees, one, are getting skin checks done, but two, need to do something about it. And therefore, based on those skin checks and that measurement, what other education do our employees need that helps them do something about it? And when we deliver our skin cancer check programs, we often either precede the skin cancer check campaign with a workshop, with an educational coaching workshop, or we follow the skin cancer campaign with a follow-up workshop to go, all right, you've had your skin cancer check done, now what? And now what actions do you need to take to consistently look after yourself in the sun and so on? So again, it really helps direct focus and further education. So you as an employer, instead of just, throwing darts at the dartboard at different wellbeing initiatives and not really knowing if they're required or not by employers, it's a really nice way to measure and go, yeah, geez, skin cancer is something that's high in Australia. It's also prevalent at our organisation. Let's do something about this and provide more education. Obviously, it goes without saying, we spoke about the number of cases of melanoma in Australia per year reaching nearly 17,000 this year. So with that, with employers, I mean, there's huge costs to sick leave, illness, and the hospital costs associated with going down this path and with, unfortunately, having time off work and everything that's associated with that. So there's direct costs. There's also those indirect costs as well of absence and productivity or lack of productivity. And also just to come back to the point I spoke about before, it really justifies the focus on what you're doing. So it's another data point to look at skin cancer in the overall health and wellbeing of your employees, and to note that it is one highly prevalent, but one super important aspect of wellbeing. And finally, I mean, it's such an obvious one, it saves lives. Like, it literally saves lives. So you conduct skin cancer checks at your workplace. One of the most heartwarming sort of times for us is when we present the skin cancer check results to employers. You can see a fictitious one here, just a template of a skin cancer check campaign report. But what I haven't included on this slide are some of the subjective feedback or the information that employees provide giving feedback to the skin cancer checks campaign. And basically these employees are saying along the lines of, thank you so much. I detected 2 skin cancers and I had them removed. Without doing this skin cancer check, I don't know where I'd be. That sort of stuff is extremely powerful, and it is literally life-saving. And as employers, there's probably no more direct response or direct benefit to the initiatives that you're providing than saying, well, without you doing this, I could be dead. That's not dramatic. It's not overly dramatized saying it in that way. It's just fact. So it is an emotive topic. It is a powerful topic. And for that reason, it is one that obviously resonates a lot with employees, but for employers, it certainly justifies the importance of health and wellbeing generally, but particularly skin cancer checks. So anyway, I've laboured the point there, but it's important that you understand that. All right, so where do skin cancer checks sort of fit in health and wellbeing, or with health checks, I suppose, more generally? And this statistic, this is a benchmark study from Bupa going back to 2016, but basically to go through these different types of health checks, biometric health checks refer to, they're commonly known as heart health checks. And they're the health checks that look at not just skin cancer as a risk factor. They don't include skin cancer actually, but they look at risk factors towards any other lifestyle disease. So cardiovascular disease, diabetes, obesity, high cholesterol and so on. These are the heart health checks done with the pinprick of the finger, the blood sample, the height and weight, the BMI, all those sorts of things. So they are still the most common workplace check conducted because they're a broader health check, but they're being fast approached or being caught up to by skin cancer, given the statistics that I touched on at the start of the session. Okay. So skin cancer checks come in at second, but they're fast moving up in that sense. The other common health checks are vision checks and hearing checks, and they're most commonly conducted often for blue collar or factory type workplaces. But yeah, we're certainly seeing a rise in skin cancer checks and a rise in the heart health checks as well. Okie doke. And just to put that in perspective of not just for health checks and where skin checks rank, but where do health checks really rank in the overall sort of corporate health space? Out of all the organizations that now do corporate health and wellbeing, what percentage of those are doing health checks? Well, 38%, you can see there. So mental health is 4%. No doubt that's increased since COVID, definitely. Education and training, 10.5%. So that refers to seminars, workshops, coaching programs in that sense. And health and fitness programs is the number one. So that's things like It includes discounted gym memberships and those sorts of things, which even though they're an offering, that they're probably more just a discount and sort of a product, but health and fitness programs come in at number one. So yeah, hopefully that helps to paint a bit of a picture as to where it all fits in the scheme of things. And note that this is sort of a couple of years old or 3 or 4 years old, this data now, and no doubt over the last couple of years we'll see a recalibration of that by percentage. Okay, any questions to you guys at the moment before we move on? All good? You're still with us?
All makes sense. All makes sense. Thanks, Josh.
All right, good to hear. Good to hear. Now, another question we get, and again, we're now looking at skin cancer checks and where they fit into wellbeing. We spoke about the prevalence of skin cancer. We've spoke about the reasons and the benefits to running skin cancer checks at your workplace. You now might be thinking, well, that all sounds great, Josh, but I've got to organise flu vaccinations. I've got to Are You OK days coming up, and I've got to organise something for that. What about Men's Health Week? What about Women's Health Week, etc., etc. So we certainly understand, what we do for a living is work with stakeholders to map out wellbeing programs. We don't just do skin cancer checks. So we're not just trying to crowbar skin cancer checks into your program, but just to give you an idea of how it can fit into an annual program, in essence, is basically, if you're listening to this and you are a workplace, you're either in the process of mapping out your next year's wellbeing program, or you've just launched a wellbeing program and you're thinking, well, skin cancer checks sound interesting. Where do they fit into the picture? Well, here's just a very basic example of how we've slotted them into various programs that we've run. It's just an example. Don't worry, every single one of our clients has a different wellbeing program and has a different structure. But just to paint a bit of a picture, this particular example here, the program was launched at the start of the year in February. That program launch referred to the different aspects of the wellbeing program and what to expect. But often one of the first topics that we might get straight into in an annual wellbeing program in Australia and New Zealand anyway, because it's summer and the sun's out, is a sun smart theme, or is a sun health or skin cancer awareness theme. So as you can see here, we haven't just gone, hey everyone, here's our wellbeing program, book your skin checks here, do your flu vax here, come along to this workshop here, and get your health checks in July. We've actually built out these different wellbeing themes for the different months, and they've included different initiatives. So to cut to the chase here, the skin cancer check component of the program has slotted into March. Health checks, so the heart health checks have slotted into July. April is a really good time to start flu. Flu vaccinations have to really happen, April, May, maybe June if they're at a stretch. So that's a really good time to build a theme around not just flu vaccinations, but boosting immunity, so on and so forth. So you can see, our usual advice to our clients is to do an audit of all the different initiatives that you're already doing at your workplace. You might have some wellbeing pillars. So you might have like healthy bodies and healthy minds or healthy community. Whatever structure you've got, the different initiatives or the different campaigns can really either build into those topics or they can be mapped out, as you can see here. Okay. All right, so that's sort of where it all fits, and looking at it in a broader sense as a HR, probably an HR stakeholder or health and wellbeing stakeholder, if you're listening to this call now. Now let's get to the nuts and bolts. How do we actually deliver these? What sort of things do you need to consider for your workplace or for your clients? If you're a third party here that are looking to do this for your clients, how do you actually deliver skin checks at a workplace? So here's a bit of a step-by-step guide. So first of all, how to deliver skin checks at your workplace. The first thing is to select the type of skin cancer check. So now the gold standard of skin cancer checks is always to deliver on-site. And for us, it's our 15-minute skin cancer check that we conduct. There are different types of health checks and skin cancer checks. There is a shorter, more brief face and forearms assessment. So basically the exposed areas skin cancer check, that takes 10 minutes. That isn't as common just because it doesn't suffice as a skin cancer check. It's just it's kind of more of a risk assessment or a quick discussion and looking at the high risk areas of the face and the forearms. But usually the outcome after that 10-minute assessment is to go and get an essential, a more comprehensive skin cancer check done, the 15-minute skin check. The other type of skin cancer check that we offer is called a pinnacle check, a pinnacle health check, and that's effectively a 15-minute skin cancer check along with a 15-minute essential heart health check. So it's mixing the skin cancer check with the heart health check that we spoke before. It's a nice option if you haven't done your heart health checks or your health checks and you're looking to deliver both in the one campaign. There's also more comprehensive skin cancer checks that can be done, things like mole mapping, that can take up to an hour and goes through a more comprehensive like photography and head to toe tracking and mole mapping of every single spot. Again, it's not as appropriate on site at workplaces, but usually it's a follow-up option to the initial skin cancer check that's conducted on site. And finally, there are remote skin check options as well. So now throughout COVID, you can imagine that some workplaces had difficulty in delivering on-site skin checks because one, a lot of employers were working in a hybrid sense, but two, a lot of people didn't want to have things like skin cancer checks done. They didn't want to come in and be touched and all those sorts of things because of all the COVID stuff going on. So as a result of that, there's a couple of remote options that have been developed. The first one is a voucher option. So if you're a workplace and you have a proportion of employees that don't work or don't have access to a head office or an employee hub that employees can come into to get their skin cancer check done, a voucher system is provided where employees can download a voucher and they can then present to these dermatology clinics across Australia and have that skin cancer check done in those separate clinics. It's a bit, to use an analogy, if you've ever used a pharmacy voucher to get your flu vaccination done, it's very similar to that, but for skin cancer checks. So that's one option. It is, of course, subject to accessibility and availability. So not every state of Australia is covered by the vouchers, and it also, not every regional area is covered by these vouchers as well. But it is an option if you've got employees that don't have convenient access to come in and get it done on site. As I keep saying, on site is still the gold standard of skin cancer check. The second remote option is a tech advanced option, if you like, and it's using an attachment to a smartphone. So basically it's a self-led skin cancer check that you as the patient or you as the employee would conduct. There's these dermatoscopic attachments. I struggle to say that one, but a little attachment to your smartphone. That means you can take magnified images of your own spots on your body. So you go through and take spots of the moles and the sunspots that you can see, and you might have someone at home that can take some of your back and areas that you can't get to. It functions very much like an on-site skin cancer check. It's conducted by the same person, but that dermatoscopist is not there on site. They are remote and they instead get images sent via the app from the employee, and they can then conduct their assessment via those images that have been sent. So it's fairly early stages. It's only a few years old, this technology. And as a result, it's an option for some workplaces, but it hasn't been as prevalent or as well used. But no doubt, watch this space. Over the years, that's going to get a lot more prevalent in making it more accessible. And as the technology gets smarter, it's just going to be a lot easier to do as well. But as I've said a few times now, I'll come back to it. The gold standard of skin cancer checks for inter-rater reliability and actual confirmation of accuracy of skin cancer detection, it's still to have a dermatoscopist come out on site, go through that head-to-toe assessment in person, and then provide their recommended actions. Anyway, I've spoken a lot on that first point, but your first job in terms of delivering skin checks is to work out which type of skin check best suits your population. The second thing then is to look at, well, out of our employees, how many do we think are going to get engaged in it? I mentioned that sort of 30 to 40% engagement as a ballpark before. And therefore, based on that engagement, what's our budget like? And just to give you a very high level budget, you're kind of looking at around either half day or full day rates. A full day rate for skin cancer checks is around about that $2,500 per full day. And that is conducting 28 skin cancer checks in a day, just to give you a ballpark figure. It obviously fluctuates a little bit depending on volume, but that's just a very rough idea for you there if you're listening and thinking, well, just roughly how much. Once you have worked out which type of skin cancer check that you're looking at and roughly working out, all right, how many do we think are going to come along to this, and therefore how much is it going to cost? You get approval, or you go, yep, we're going ahead with this. Then it's about logistics and planning. And then that's where, effectively us as Pinnacle Health Group, we then go to you and go, cool, here's an online booking link to send out to your employees. Here's the comms templates and the marketing information that you can send out to inspire healthy change and actually get employees doing something about it. And we usually, our promotion campaign or awareness campaign is anywhere between 2 weeks to 2 months. I mean, 2 weeks is not ideal, but it has been done and has worked really well. 2 months is probably a little bit long as well. So usually somewhere in between that is the perfect leading campaign to maximize engagement and to get bums on seats in the skin cancer checks. Then once that's all been done, employees book in for their skin cancer checks, the diary's filling up. Then it's down to delivery. So then the dermatoscopist comes out on site. However many days of the skin cancer checks are delivered, fantastic. That's all done. The employee in person gets their own little skin cancer check booklet that you saw a couple of snapshots of before, and they get their recommended actions in person. And then a de-identified report of the skin cancer campaign is provided to the employer. So what I mean by that is that if you have 100 employees that go through the skin cancer check campaign, it's not Josh had his skin cancer check. By the way, Josh had a suspicious lesion identified. It's number, employee 1 to 100. Here's the overall aggregated information from that skin cancer check campaign. Here's the number of people that engaged in it. Here's the overall risk factors. Here's what we found. All de-identified, no personal information is shared there. So they're the data points that have been collected for the individual. It's, how many suspicious lesions and what you need to do about it and what your risk factors are. For the employer or for the organization, it's the overall snapshot. And then we then sit down with you as an organization, interpret those results and talk about next steps. The thing I haven't included in this, but I touched on before, is the coaching workshop or the seminar to talk around the benefits of skin cancer checks or the risks of skin cancer. And to go back a few slides, where that fits in is actually delivering either, it can be delivered virtually, it can be delivered in person, but a keynote workshop on the importance of skin cancer checks is a really good way to get people involved in the campaign. Okay, we're rounding things out now, but we're nearly there. So the other considerations are the things that, just take home points for you here. Average engagement we touched on. Rule of thumb is around about 1/3 of the workforce, or let's say 30%. Space and privacy requirements. So, we have been known to come on site and where absolutely needed to use things like butcher's paper to cover up, glass walls on meeting rooms and those sorts of things. But ideally, you would have a private room, a meeting room, a first aid room, a carer's room, parents' room, whatever it might be that is available that we can use to conduct those head-to-toe skin checks. Because remember, these employees are actually derobing and getting down to, to their undies. The other, thing to look at here is the on-site and remote options that I touched on, and I also have said it many times now, but on-site is still the gold standard for skin cancer checks. The other things to consider for you, if you're that stakeholder looking at how do we deliver this to get the best results, is to look at your comms channels and look at any other champions that you might think of. So I'm going to talk about an example here with champions that I often share with our clients. And it's effectively a way to increase engagement. But first of all, before I talk about champions, comms channels are super important. We, as Pinnacle Health Group, we provide all the marketing content. We provide images and flyers and written copy. So all you really have to do is then cut and paste and put that through your channels. But we often recommend more than one channel. So not just sending out mass emails, but sharing the skin cancer check campaign or the upcoming skin cancer check program on, might be your intranet, or it might be a social media platform that you use internally. Excuse me for a sec. It might be a digital wellbeing platform that you have, whatever it may be, getting it out on as many channels as possible. And then sharing that. So a way to share that or spread the message is via champions. Champions we refer to in any kind of wellbeing program as another employee or another wellbeing leader or stakeholder that can help spread the word and increase engagement. Now, champions, to give you that example that I was talking about before, we have a client that are a high profile client that had one of their kind of star players, if you like, that alludes to the client here, but they had a high profile player who had a well-documented case of melanoma and was missing games and missing their sport because of skin cancer. So basically this particular client that we were delivering skin cancer checks for, they engaged, or they got this particular player to tell their story, to share their story about skin cancer, to share the ins and outs and the journey and why it was so important to get that skin cancer check conducted. And as a result, you can see there on the top dot point, the average engagement is 30%, but this particular client had something between 70 and 80% of their staff actually booked in and had their skin cancer checks done. So powerful was this session, or was the champion that had been through skin cancer. So consider that. I'm not saying you necessarily have to have a high profile employee that is willing to share that message, but a lot of people that have had these skin cancer checks conducted before and have been through this process want to share that story and want to really help others. So consider that when you're planning your skin cancer check program as well. And also the final thing to mention is consider incentives. So can you incentivize coming along to a workshop? Can you incentivize actually booking into the skin cancer check? We've used very basic things like little sunscreen samples, sunscreen giveaways. The booklets that we hand out as a skin cancer check risk assessment also have this really nice information on how to be sun smart and how to prevent skin cancer down the track. That's at a very, very basic level. What other things can you think of? If you have a rewards program at your workplace where you might have discounts to different health and wellbeing initiatives, you might have vouchers, those sorts of things. So can you incentivize engagement in skin cancer checks in any way possible? It increases engagement. So something to think about. All right, and finally, just before we sort of throw to you to ask any questions, a question here that sort of concludes all of the information. Obviously, we deliver lots and lots of skin cancer checks and health checks throughout an average year. A lot of information to take in, but hopefully you're at a point after listening to this to go, well, I understand why skin cancer checks, I understand what they are, understand how they're done, and also how they fit into an annual program. So hopefully that's good. To throw to you now, a question to ask is, just seeking feedback here, but what would your biggest take home from today's session be in terms of skin cancer checks? I'll give you a little bit of time. This is more of a word response rather than just a multiple choice. So just sharing from previous sessions what some other clients have said. It's been the statistics have been some of the take-home points. I don't think we speak about those enough. Yeah, there's some good ones there. So the options available. Yeah, thank you. Simple process to set up. Yeah, it really is. And hopefully it doesn't overwhelm you hearing all the ins and outs of it, because basically that as a service provider, that's the stuff that we would be doing anyway, or you might already have a service provider. That's the stuff that they would do as well. Yeah, statistics and education. Yeah, thanks guys. All right, well, that sort of concludes the formal part of the session. Before I jump into sort of a Q&A here, I have shared in the chat box for all of you here, or if you go to healthprogram.scoreapp.com, we've got a pretty handy little scorecard where you can take a test, and it basically just measures your readiness for delivering a health check program at your workplace. So not just a skin cancer check, that can be any type of health check at your workplace. But if you go to healthprogram.scoreapp.com, it's a really nice way to measure, are you ready? Do you understand what it takes to deliver a health check program at your workplace? Are you already measuring stuff? Do you have a champions network? All those sorts of things. There's some really handy questions there just to prompt further action from there as well. So, okie doke. So yeah, any questions, guys?
Thanks, Josh. So I just got to jump in and ask, based on all of those different skin checks, health checks, flu, etc. that you've got in example calendars, like right now with your client, what are what would you say is the go-to right now? Maybe is the first question for, you know, if you can share that, and also best time to maybe roll the skin cancer check program out in your experience?
Yeah, great question. And first of all, I mean, you know, if you session, you think, geez, I hadn't even thought of health checks, or we've only just done flu vax. How do I keep up with this? Certainly am aware of all of that. And the idea here isn't, you know, bigger picture is not to have that scattergun approach of chasing your tail and going, geez, I've just done flu vax. Now you're telling me I've got to think about skin cancer checks. Then we've got to do health checks. Then we've got to do this and that. So first of all, it's hard to do everything all at once, and you will have to, you know, prioritize and look at what is the thing that we can deliver at this point in time. So, but really good question. And I guess to answer one part of that question, what time of year, you know, potentially should skin cancer checks get done? Well, there's a few ways to answer that. The first thing is to say that any time of the year is important to know whether you've got a skin cancer on you or not. In terms of maximizing and optimizing engagement, we've done skin cancer checks really any month of the year. January and December, you're really looking at late January or early December. As it gets sort of into early January or late December, it's getting quite close to Christmas. So as with anything, it's engagement can be varied, and you can be paying for full days of these skin cancer checks, and people just, even though it's important, it gets thrown out with all the Christmas and end of year craziness. Summer months or spring or autumn, so when the sun is either just coming back again, so nowish, you know, we're in August now, so when spring's about to happen, or when summer's in full swing, or even in autumn after summer, when people have been spending lots of time in the sun, and for peace of mind, they're thinking, geez, I better just check. I've been up, you know, I've been at the beach most days this summer. I better just check and make sure everything's okay. They're all reasons in people. These are all considerations at the individual level of why they would take the action to get a skin cancer check done at that time. So I'm not giving you a straight answer here that the real answer is any time of the year, but the considerations for you as an employer or a stakeholder mapping this out would be, what time of year is going to best optimize our staff, not just for skin checks, but where does it fit in that 12-month period? If you've just done flu vax and you had a good engagement with that, is skin cancer checks a good time to do it? Maybe. If you've got health checks in the middle of the year, that commonly for a lot of our employers or workplaces, I should say, they'll often do the more heart health checks in the middle of the year. Then as the sun either is up at the start of the year or it starts to come up again after winter, that's a really nice time to do the skin cancer checks. And you know, what are we now? We're August. You know, this has been a premeditated time to deliver this workshop because a lot of our clients are coming to us and asking for those now. So hopefully that answers your question. And I suppose one other, you know, point to note with all of this is that, you know, we're August at the moment. Skin cancer checks are important right now, but also it's been 2 years of less skin cancer checks for everyone because of COVID. So we're probably at the extremes of busy right now with skin checks. For that, it's that perfect sort of melting pot of not having had them done for 2 years, but we've now got through winter and the sun's out. So yeah, good question.
One really other quick one. I'm just hogging the limelight here, but just thinking about timeline, like how far in advance should, if we were to kind of engage you or a provider, how far in advance should we be reaching out, you know, in terms of the lead time before we actually want to launch?
Yeah, great question. So we, and this is probably something I haven't touched on a lot today because we really want just to introduce the concept of skin cancer checks and learn what the checks are themselves. But how we deliver this at Pinnacle Health Group, if I come back right all the way back to the start, where we really specialize in wellbeing programs. And to talk about skin cancer checks or health checks as a program, well, it's not just the check itself. It's not just the 2 days or the 5 days of health checks and then it's all done. If you come back to what I was speaking about before, there's the initial sort of planning and logistics. There's the comms campaign and the marketing campaign to increase awareness and actually get employees coming along. Then there's the actual checks themselves. And then after that, it's the data measurement and the follow-up and the program report. So to map that out in a journey, it's really a 3-month program. So we actually refer to, excuse me, the skin cancer checks or the health checks as a 3-month program, even though it is health checks or skin checks, because part of that 3-month program would probably include that workshop or that engagement workshop that we spoke about as well. So, then we come back to your question, well, how long do you really need to give it? I said really it fluctuates with our clients from minimum 2 weeks lead time. That's really, really pushing it, because what we need to do is, one, find availability of our dermatoscopists. They're a highly specialised practitioner. We have them across Australia and New Zealand, but because we fill up pretty quickly, often we'll need more than 2 weeks, but it has been done. But anywhere from 2 weeks to 2 months. So what we do, once you sort of identify that you as a workplace want to conduct skin cancer checks, is that we then look at availability from our end. We lock in dates and times, and then we'll send out all the comms templates. So generally speaking, with the online booking links and the comms campaign, ideally about a month out from that program would be the perfect sort of time to perfect lead time. So if you're sitting on this session now and you're thinking, well, what are we? We're mid-August at the moment. Spring is in the air in a couple of weeks. We'd like to deliver skin cancer checks in September or October. You've got time to do this. If it was the start of September, I'd be saying, well, you might be pushing it. But if you've got 4 to 6 weeks up your sleeve to organise this, you've got plenty of time. Yeah. Cool, Nora. No worries at all, Nora. Thank you for jumping on. So thanks everyone for jumping on. Yeah, great session. Hopefully, if you're either listening to this in a recorded format or you jumped on today, you got something out of it. And just to come back a slide there as well, a nice sort of first step here is to go through that health check program test or take, fill out the scorecard there. It's a nice quick, there's only 5 to 10 questions there, and it just gives you a really good snapshot. So thanks again, guys. I will let you go along with your day and we'll see how you're going with your health programs as well. Take care.